a lack of gratitude puts you into a victim mindset of where everything is always against you or everything is happening to you.
What you focus on, you find. What you focus on, you become. So you focus on adversity, you focus on all the things that are happening to you or in your life. All of that stuff will continue to show up.
Gratitude is often best expressed in tears.
Get present to when you hear yourself saying, I have to, I must, I could, I should, and just replace one of them in your day to I get to, and watch what happens.
Hi, and welcome to the Living Richly podcast. It is so great to have you here today. I really want to apologize for my co-host right out of the gate, but I'm also very grateful for my co-host today. We are going to be talking about what is sometimes an overused word, oversimplified word, but I think an absolutely transformational idea, and that is the idea of gratitude. We really want to dive into the power of how gratitude and being grateful really sets the tone for living your best life, for living richly. And so that's where we're going to really focus on today. And I'm really excited about it. And I'm so excited that all of you are here joining us and tuning into the episode today. So I want to start by just opening it up with the question of what does a life filled with gratitude mean for each of you personally? And maybe Kate, I'll start with you today.
Yeah, it means a lot to me. So much so I have a business that's built around gratitude.
Shameless plug, right out of the gate.
For Get2 mindset, but it is such a pillar of my personal growth, my journey, my spiritual growth. For me, gratitude has been the foundation for my change. Gratitude is so linked to self-worth, and so that ability to have that foundation of gratitude has really enabled me to kind of shift how I look at the day-to-day things. It allows me to have a lens of gratitude versus a lens of lack. Right. And so for me, having that sort of micro reprogramming in my brain, it's just giving me a very different perspective, and it's brought a ton of joy into my life.
I've made note. I don't, because I want us to go back to this in a moment, and that was that phrase that you just said, that gratitude is tied into self-worth.
Yeah, you caught that too, didn't you? Yeah, it's like I want to ask her about that.
Oh, that's good. But before we do that, Wendy, Eric, what is gratitude?
Yeah, I think it's...
Oh, go ahead. Just go ahead. You go first.
So grateful you're my co-host.
Yes, Wendy.
I think it's something that we hear about all the time. We know, and I love how you actually open this up, like, stick with us, because we want to talk about it a little differently. But it's something that we know that is super important to us. For me, it's really recognizing everything that I am instead of everything that I am not.
Love that.
And reminding myself of all of the things and the qualities that I have that I am learning to celebrate more about myself versus, but I should be doing this. I wish I was doing this. Maybe if I did this differently. So that's really what it means to me.
I love that. For me, gratitude is probably the most life-transforming shift in perspective. And you've had a big influence on me with that, with the Get2 mindset, get to versus have to. Yeah. Another phrase that for me ties in right with that is, this is happening for me, not to me, right? It's a shift in perspective. And remember years ago, I was a big fan of the C.S. Lewis books. I read them all to my kids. And there's a story of Prince Caspian, and they actually made a series of movies about the books, and one of them is the Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And in that, Caspian, who had been living in exile for years, near the end, and it's not in the books, but he's quoted as saying this in the movies, he said, "I spent too long wanting what was taken from me, and not what I was given." And for me, that shift in perspective to focus again on abundance as opposed to scarcity, what I've been given versus what I lack. I think that's what gratitude really helps me kind of ground myself in that.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, absolutely. I love all of this. Okay, so I want to go right back to this because while it's fresh in our mind. Explain yourself.
Self-worth. Well, I talk about
that was...
Let me just start. Oh my God. So pressure.
So much pressure.
Yeah, but see, I'm going to reframe that. I'm so grateful for you. It's tied to self-worth for me. Self-worth is I believe if you don't know your self-worth, the journey can't happen. And so gratitude for me was a personal exercise of being grateful. You touched on this, for things about me. So women are often so highly critical of themselves, specifically to physically. So things like, I'm grateful that my body allows me to walk up the stairs. I am grateful for, my eyes that allow me to see, like some basic physical things, just being able to say what I'm grateful for. It brings you back to that worth piece. I'm grateful that I get to spend time with my kids, right? That gives me worth back, where I'm able to, I'm worthy as a mom. Wow. Like they want to be here. I get to be here. So for me, it's wrapped up in this notion of the self-love, the self-peace for myself. And that's what allows me to then, what I call, like, move out of the foundation and up.
Yeah,
spiritually.
And, when you talked about that, because what thought came to mind for me was because gratitude is something that it's always been a natural part of my life. And I was raised with a mom who, despite all of the shortcomings, despite all of the challenges and the difficulties that she went through in life, she was a person filled with gratitude, and in kind of, and that was probably her biggest lesson that she would. So it was just natural for us to be in an environment, my brother and sister and I, to be in an environment of gratitude when it came to my mom. And I, anytime I have had conversations with my sister or brother, it seems to come natural there as well. There does seem to be this idea that a lack of gratitude puts you into a victim mindset of where everything is always against you, or everything is happening to you. Right. And that's where I was, as soon as you said that about it tying into worth, it's like, because when you don't have that, of course you're seeing everything as out to get you, or it's coming on against you. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talk about how when I think of how my understanding of gratitude has evolved over time, I think for me, it's this notion of it's easy to be grateful when things are going well. It's easy to be grateful when, your expectations are being met, you're meeting your goals, people are showing up the way you want them to. But again, real gratitude is the ability to dig into that when things aren't going well. And when you're suffering, or when you're hurting, or when people aren't showing up the way that you want to. Yeah. And let's face it, we think of all the negativity in the world. And I think for me, gratitude is so much more than just when I talked about a reframe earlier. It's not just putting on these rose-colored glasses and looking at the world really in a skewed way. But I think we've lost sight of the fact that for all the bad things that are happening in the world, there are probably 100 good things going on. They're just not newsworthy. That's right. So they don't show up on the news feed. They don't show up right on the 6 o'clock news. No, they're reporting all the bad stuff that's going on. But when we sink into gratitude and begin to recognize that it's available to us even in the hard times, that the suffering or the hardship or the struggle that we're going through is actually creating an opportunity for us to become more than we are, and to experience life in a way that perhaps we couldn't without that suffering.
I love that. I know for me, like when we talk about an evolution of gratitude, I used to really struggle with being, I'm grateful, but I'm unhappy. And those two didn't sit well. I'm like, how can, I used to be so hard on myself, be more grateful, be more great. And I was grateful. I was just super unhappy. And I couldn't figure out how those could live together. And now I see it very differently. So I'll give an example because I think it helps. And I use this with my clients is, say 10 years ago, let's say it snowed and I love skiing. I don't love the snow or skiing, but this is for an example.
So this is really hypothetical?
It's really hypothetical. But let's say it was snowing and I'm a skier and I see it snowing. I'm grateful. I'm grateful it's snowing. I can't wait to go hit the slopes. I get outside. I go to my car. I'm like, fuck, I got to clean off all the snow and the ice, and I'm out there and I'm chiseling, and now I'm getting like, fuck, it's taking forever and I'm tired and I'm pissed off. I get in my car and I'm pissed off, and that's my tone. I'm in that sort of that state. That's the emotional state I'm in. That's what I would have done, say 10 years ago. Right. But now when it snows, and I'm still not skiing or happy with the snow, but when it snows and I get to that grateful state, I'm like, oh, great, it's snowing. I get outside, I see the car. I still say, fuck, because I don't want to chisel it off, and I do, what I do now is I use Get2 mindset, and I'm like, I get to chisel the car, I get to take the snow off, I get to do this,
Right.
But over time, what happens is I get to, right, because then I get to go to the hill, okay, and then I get to go to the hill, right, okay, and then I get to ski, great, okay, and then I get in my car, and it's just a small reframe, but that small reframe resets how I'm feeling in the moment.
Right.
So gratitude doesn't mean you can't feel a certain way. What gratitude does in the practice of gratitude is how fast you can reset.
Oh, it's
Love
so
that.
good.
And then if your kids are little and they're in a snowsuit, and then they
And
have
we
to
know what happens with snowsuits, right?
right, and then they have to pee after you've scraped everything
Right.
off.
And you're like, I get to take you to the bathroom.
We get to go back inside. I'm sure that's where we were all going.
Well, of course, 100%. Yeah.
What about for you? How's it evolved?
So I know for me, I've reached a certain age in my life where I focus more on that progress versus that perfection. I use it a lot when I'm coaching in a gym setting, but also with the real life around things don't have to be perfect and fall into place right away. It's all about those little baby steps around progressing.
Yeah.
So that progress over perfection. And I love, Kate, that you mentioned the example of being grateful, but also unhappy.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, and I know sometimes I still struggle with this. So talking about kids, for example, grateful that we have wonderful,
100%.
children.
Yeah.
But it's okay to be happy sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And surrounding yourself with those people that absolutely get that. So just because I'm cranky or I'm happy doesn't mean that I'm not grateful that I don't have my kids, right? Yeah. So really learning to differentiate.
100%.
Isn't that one of the most common things that people will say when you're frustrated or you're expressing that frustration, anger, sadness, whatever. That's what people will say right
you
away
should be
to you.
grateful.
Well, you should be grateful, right?
I am grateful, Carol.
Right.
or Karen.
Or Karen.
Carol or Karen.
I'm okay to not be happy with my kids right now.
Right. I don't think negative emotions and gratitude are mutually exclusive.
No.
I think, again, when we think of genuine gratitude is the ability to recognize that, again, opportunities. I used to think hardship, again, with the way I used to feel about myself, which was really not good, really not healthy. I could help the world, but I despised myself truly. And so I honestly believe that when hardship came my way, that it was punishment, that I deserve this, I earned this. And so I just got to buck up and take it like a man. And this is just going to be my lot. When that began to shift, now with gratitude, the ability to look at hardship, to look at trying times, to look at difficult circumstances and be grateful that the universe is giving me an opportunity to grow. And that doesn't mean I'm feeling good about it.
Right.
Because the hardship is hitting you hard, but you've got this other lens to say, but there's a purpose. There's something else trying to show up that I'm just not recognizing yet, but I'm grateful that I've got the opportunity to walk.
And I think that's, for me, where the evolution has come is to certainly when I began to appreciate and understand that gratitude is not an emotion. It's a mindset.
Yes.
Right. The emotion is a separate entity.
Yeah.
And that's for many years, certainly in my younger years, that's what I thought was gratitude was an emotion. So if I'm feeling unhappy, then I also can't be feeling gratitude. Well, I don't feel gratitude ever. I choose gratitude.
Yeah,
and it's
100%.
an internal mindset that is not affected by circumstances. It's not affected by others. No one can change that. No one can, anything. It is something that is from within going out.
Right.
And now you address whatever the circumstances, feelings, emotions, whatever it is that's going on out of a state of gratitude or lack of gratitude, whichever it might be. But that's what it is for me.
Yeah. And
Go for it.
yeah, I was
Go ahead.
going to say gratitude is not the same as like being positive or having
No.
a positive outlook. They're very different, but often they get like switched, right?
Right.
Positive, you can have like, let's say your sister's coming over, like your sister for some reason. I don't have a sister, again, not speaking for myself, so let's say that.
All these
But I know.
hypotheticals.
Is it right?
It's way easier.
Sorry to all the sisters out there.
Yeah.
But let's say your sister's coming over and, a positive outlook would be like, oh, it's okay. Like I'll survive. It'll be fine. I'm going to make the best of it. That's an outlook. You're not dealing with it. You're pushing it aside.
Right.
Gratitude is, okay, I know things are tough, but I'm going to be present because I get to see my sister today and spend time with her. I know it's been challenging. I might not get tomorrow with her. I'm going to be grateful for this time. And they're two very different things, but they often get
And I think it's a practiced art to be able to identify that and be able to separate those two, not two emotions, but just those two separate things because they are completely separate. So the more you practice it, the easier it becomes to then be able to differentiate and separate it. And I think I think it was you, Eric, that mentioned adversity, because what you focus on, you find. What you focus on, you become. So you focus on adversity, you focus on all the things that are happening to you or in your life. All of that stuff will continue to show up. Whereas if you make that conscious effort to separate those emotions, happy, unhappy, grateful, not grateful, you start to piece the puzzle together a little bit better.
Yeah. And I would say to your point that, I love that, gratitude is a mindset. I'd say joy is the same. Joy is a mindset. Love is a mindset and a choice. And yet they are also emotions. Right. You feel joyful. You feel grateful. You feel love. As a matter of fact, I think it was Joe Dispenza, big fan of Joe. Joe, if you're listening, big fan of yours. But he calls gratitude the most elevated emotion that we experience because it's almost spiritual in nature. And actually, as I've been working my way back through the elements again, and the elements of nature of water, fire, earth, wind, and speaking of mind, heart, spirit, body, I've been spending more time on the wind element, and I'm almost beginning to see things like gratitude as a choice, joy as a choice, and the resulting feelings that come almost as a spiritual experience. You're tapping into something when you make that choice. You're tapping into a strength and an energy that I think is greater than what's available to you just in this sack of meat, right? Like I think you're tapping into.
I agree. Brene Brown did in all her years on research on vulnerability.
She's amazing.
So she is amazing. I love you, Brene.
We're grateful for Joe, and grateful for Brene.
But in all of that research that she did, it's 12 years, 11,000 people, a lot of research for people who self-identify as being joyful or having joy in their lives. They all of them had one consistent element in common, and that's that they practiced daily gratitude. So from gratitude comes joy. And so finding joy without gratitude, her research shows it's not impossible. It's really hard. Yeah. Really, really hard.
Yeah. I've been reading the Book of Joy. I mentioned it in a couple episodes, an interview between the Dalai Lama and the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu that took place in 2016. The author, the Archbishop went to Dharamsala, where the Dalai Lama's been in exile now for 56 years at the time of the writing of the book. And they spent a week together talking about the nature of joy in the midst of suffering. And the Dalai Lama at one point in the book refers to a study that was done, again, on the nature of joy and gratitude. And two of the three components that could be found. One is the reframing of life in a more positive way in terms of looking for the opportunities instead of just the problems. And the other one was gratitude, right? It comes up all over the place.
Yeah. Let's talk about our personal experiences and how gratitude has impacted our lives at different times. And so maybe Wendy, I'll start with you. What can you share a personal story of how gratitude has played a role in your life?
Yeah, I think this one comes to mind right away. When I was hospitalized back in 2018 after my accident that I had, which I talked about in my story, I really used the power of gratitude and transformative thinking to be able to help overcome all of that adversity that I was facing, because I didn't know how my life was going to look after that. I had so many doctors and surgeons, looking at me and saying I wasn't going to be able to function properly for at least a year. That being said, though, when I left the hospital, I distinctly remember, I'm not going to cry. When I left the hospital, I stepped out onto the pavement. I still remember the doors opening, stepped out onto the pavement, and I'm just watching life go by. Like everyone's doing their shit. Everyone's kind of rushing around, and the after effects of PTSD and how to learn how to overcome that. And I always remembered, like, I'm in this little hospital room, all like attached and connected, and everybody's just kind of doing their life and doing their thing and all of that kind of stuff. And it just makes you think how short life is, and how when you focus on your healing, whether that's physical, emotional, mental, whatever the case may be, you always have that choice. You always have that choice. And you can have all the support in the world, but it's up to you to be able to make that conscious choice on how you're going to overcome that. So that would be 100%. My story.
It's just such a powerful story. It's similar to mine, which I also share on my episode, in how, through trauma really landed into gratitude. And that's, and I'll keep it really short, but my girlfriend who passed away from breast cancer, and it's where I Get to Run in the Rain comes from. And I went to go for a run, pouring rain, halfway through, I'm drenched, I'm miserable. I come back around the corner, I see her house. She has since passed at this point. And I stopped dead in my tracks. It's like I hit a wall of invisible emotion, and I just stopped and I started bawling my eyes out. And I had remembered the conversation where she wanted to go for a run with her dog and she never got to run again. And in that moment, I have never felt gratitude for my own life like I did. It was like, this so much emotion, probably a lot of grief in there too at the time, but I've never again have I felt that level of gratitude. And a lot of times people will feel it coming out of something, a traumatic event. But that for me had so much impact, completely changed my life, and that started to build that foundation for me and is the inspiration for Get2 Mindset.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So powerful. I thought long and hard about this question, but I don't know if there's a single moment for me or a single story. I think I spent most of my adult life creating a ton of unnecessary suffering for myself. And really relating with the passage from Prince Caspian, I spent my whole life really focusing on what I had lost or what I didn't have. And it would take significant work to be able to understand that I may not be able to control the first arrow that comes, but I don't have to shoot myself the second and third and fourth time. And your influence with that, I remember when you first told me that story, I Get to Run in the Rain, and then those two phrases just landed for me. I get to versus I have to. This is not happening to me. This is happening for me. And it was a slow evolution, but it's now become that is how my mind is now shifted. That's where my mind now leans. It's more what I've been blessed with, what I have. And in those moments where I'm feeling down or I'm feeling there's hardship, I just experienced, it's the holidays are coming up soon. Actually, this episode will drop right, probably during the holidays. And what's the old saying? If you think you're enlightened, go home for the holidays. And so experiencing some stuff on the family side, and to be able to process that very differently than I would have in the past. And just to say, I'm grateful for what this is revealing about me and what I'm learning about myself, and actually what I'm seeing in terms of growth of how I might have responded to the situation before. So yeah, not a specific story, more of it's been an evolution for me, for sure, a real journey.
I thought of this when you were sharing about walking through those doors and kind of realizing the world is going around. I remember as clear as day the morning after Katie had died, after my daughter had died, and driving on the Queensway, and somebody honks their horn or whatever, and I was distracted. I remember being so angry in the car, wanting to scream like, don't you fucking know what I'm going through? And don't you, right? Like I was just so, and there are a lot of people who go through those seasons, that kind of a level of grief or that kind of tragedy, and the anger consumes them, right? The pain consumes them, and their lives are never the same. They're never able to move, and I look at that because people, does gratitude fall into losing your daughter? Now, I've said this many times when people talk about the notion of what I've gone through with that. Listen, I would do anything to have my daughter. You want to choose between, different paths of life. I also, though, recognize that when I look at the journey of who I am today, I don't believe I would be the person I am today without having gone through that experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And I look at even being in a place of where I am to meet the love of my life, to be able to go through this experience of all of what I'm in life with today, to be on a show like the Living Richly podcast without experiencing that. And
Wow.
so the gratefulness of not of the moment or the situation, not grateful for that at all.
Right.
Grateful for the ability to learn and grow and become who I am today as a result of the trials and the situations we go through. Very powerful for me.
Wow.
Think of the power and the comfort that knowledge brings, that suffering is not meaningless,
Right.
that it's not pointless, that it's not suffering for suffering's sake, that when hardship does show up on our front door, and you've shared your story, we've heard other stories on the show of great loss, and it's the beauty that emerges on the other side. And when you fundamentally come to believe, I think true gratitude is born out of the fundamental belief that no matter how hard this moment is, something beautiful is going to emerge from it, even in unexpected ways that I may not be able to put my finger on right now. And it may take me a while to figure it out, depending on the nature of the hardship, but that something beautiful is going to emerge.
Wow.
Well, and no matter what we go through, and everybody goes through, significant adversity and trauma, and it's all various levels, the wound is often almost never our fault. Yes, we have faults. That's not what I'm trying to say. But if we're dealing with something significant, the wound is sometimes not our fault, but how we choose to heal from it so that the wound isn't open forever, but that it's slowly starts to scar over is a huge part of healing, and gratitude can be part of that.
The word choose in that sentence is so important because we choose it.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but it is ultimately a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But choosing suffering is hard. Choosing misery is hard.
Right.
Choosing to beat myself up is hard, right?
Yeah.
So it's choose your heart.
Choose your heart.
Choose your heart, which one offers hope, one offers a future, one offers meaning, purpose, beauty. The other just offers more misery and suffering.
We know that there is all kinds of research there. The science backs up the power of gratitude. We will make sure to include in the show notes all kinds of links to different studies that we are aware of. I certainly encourage you, if you're aware of some studies, feel free to add those in the comments. But there's all kinds of research. But maybe summarize quickly, what does the research say about gratitude?
In the last 10 years alone, one particular study, 64 clinical trials were conducted, and they found that not only does gratitude improve your mood, but it's a great treatment for depression and anxiety. As a matter of fact, gratitude is being used as a therapeutic tool to help people with depression and anxiety. Another study conducted by Berkeley found that you don't even have to share your gratitude with other people. Just writing about it is a significant mood booster. And can, again, be so great for stress. The same study showed that it even causes your prefrontal cortex to light up, especially the parts of your brain that are linked to decision-making and motivation. It makes you a better decision maker. It keeps you motivated. And then the last one we'll quote, and we'll put all this in there, but it leads to the three major, this was a 2017 study, decreased heart rate. The more grateful you are, the less stressed you are, the more relaxed you feel. Better emotional regulation. How many here haven't struggled with your emotions getting out of hand? The more grateful you are, right? It shows that it actually gives you that, it accesses the power of your brain that can help you soothe that. And again, the last one again is another one that speaks to greater motivation. You're more motivated, you have more energy.
It absolutely.
It's a science. It's scientifically proven that gratitude works.
It is impossible to if you do the research, it will show that it is absolutely a benefit to all of us to choose gratitude and as a way of life. But is there a downside? Is there a dark side to gratitude?
Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't call it a dark side.
I want to call it a dark
He's
side.
calling it a
He's-
dark
he
side.
wants-
You can call it a dark
He
side.
wants
dark
to,
side.
Kate.
Let it
Dark
be.
side
I
has
know,
cookies.
The dark side
Dark
has cookies and no gratitude.
That's very dark.
Darth Vader
side.
wasn't a very grateful guy. Think about it.
I thought we might get through one episode without a Star Wars.
No.
No.
Not happening.
You should be grateful.
Yeah.
But I do
You
think
get to talk about Star Wars.
Shh, right
Kate,
back at it.
Your faith is very disturbing.
Wow.
Oh, your lack of faith. Find your lack of
Your
faith very
very
disturbing.
Wow. Okay, so I do think there's like a hard side to it. So what I see with people that I speak with is that there's a lot of fear around gratitude. So what I see is when, like, if I ask someone, what are you grateful for? And if they say my kids, okay, so give me examples of what you're truly grateful for about your kids. What do your kids do? They crawl into bed with me. I got a 30-minute cuddle. I haven't had that in a long time. Great. Okay. What else? I don't know. I got to go like with my son and we grabbed a coffee. We had this great conversation. Great. And keep prompting them. And the more you prompt them, the more they get into the grateful setting, right? Like into that mindset of like, I'm grateful. And then the emotion follows. And then that emotion, talking about my kids, the love follows. And it becomes a very strong emotion. And when I challenge people to dig into that emotion, they get really fearful, because if they get truly connected to it, truly feel the true love that goes, the first thing that they think about is, it's going to get taken away from me. So if I get super close and grateful for what I have, someone's going to take it away. So I'm not going to get grateful. I'm going to live in the fear. And so trying to help people move out of that fear, it's like, well, what if you just got really present to today, because you might not have tomorrow, something might happen. What if you kind of shelved fear for a while? What's the worst thing that could happen?
Right.
Oh, I get these moments with my kids. And so I think what happens is people don't lean into it because they're so scared that it's going to poof, right?
Wow.
Disappear.
Wow.
Yeah. Wendy, what about for you?
I think for me, a lot of people worry that they're doing it wrong, that they need to do
Am I
it
doing
as
gratitude right?
that they,
6 ways of doing gratitude right.
There's probably a YouTube video
Oh,
on it.
there-
I'm sure
but
there
a lot
is.
of my clients will
Yeah.
say, well, I've heard about, keeping a gratitude journal or doing stuff like that, but I don't know where to begin or what to do, or they overthink it and then they get ready to get ready. And I mean, I was like that as well. I still have my journal from when I first started years ago, and it looks like a toddler wrote it, just because it was so basic and so simple.
Sure. Yeah.
So I find a lot of people
Mine still looked that way.
That's okay.
I find a lot of people overthink
I
that
agree.
when it's okay to just start.
Yeah.
And
Right,
the other
right.
thing is they don't always give themselves permission that it's okay to have a frustrating day. And I just spoke about that. Just because you have a frustrating day doesn't mean that you're not grateful, and that's okay to still have those days.
Yeah, see, I would say that for me, it's less of a dark side and more of a myth, perhaps, that needs to be debunked. And I go back to this notion of that gratitude is synonymous with this false positivity, this false optimism that denies reality. When I was thinking about preparing for this conversation, the phrase, gratitude is often best expressed in tears. It's the ability to get in touch with reality. Like, again, how can you truly be grateful unless you feel all the feels, unless you get fully present to what's happening? And getting fully present, again, I want to go back to the men that were watching the show. Elizabeth Lesser in Cassandra Speaks advocates, we talked about this recently, she advocates, we've been told our whole lives that being men is about being strong and silent, the strong and silent type. And that's synonymous with strong equals silent is how most men have interpreted it. And she advocates for a different type of masculinity, brave and open. And brave and open means being able to actually get in touch with what's happening. Like, most guys live from the neck up, right?
Yeah.
This thing is, they don't have access to it. But I can tell you this, when you're able to feel, when you're able to access your emotions, when you're able to get present to what you're feeling, especially those negative emotions, how can you truly feel gratitude? How can you truly feel joy? How can you truly feel love unless you know and get present to your pain.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. For me, I know that it's absolutely that it ties into what we were talking about earlier about the emotion is people, again, they think that they can't be sad and still be grateful.
Yeah.
And so when they use the word grateful, it almost causes passive behavior where, well, I can't do anything about it or else I'm not being grateful.
Yeah.
And so they all of a sudden it immobilizes people. And I think that's where the dark side, where you begin to stop taking action to grow and improve. Why are you trying to improve your life? Aren't you grateful for your life? I'm absolutely grateful for my life, and I want to grow and improve my life. And so I think sometimes when we mess that up and we see those as being separate ways of thinking, for sure.
Totally.
I know we're almost out of time. I want to just kind of touch a couple more things before we do wrap up, and maybe let's just start with what's one thing, what's something, if somebody was saying, okay, I want to start to kind of bring gratitude more into my daily life, what would be something that you would encourage our listeners to do in order to begin to be more grateful?
I think there's a lot out there. First off, journaling, there's all kinds of things. I know Wendy said it well, just start somewhere. I'm going to do a shameless plug, but they really help people. So I Get2 affirmations that I built are 8-minute morning affirmations. They're on YouTube. It just sets the tone for the day where it's like, I get to start my day with positivity. And you just sort of run through 8 minutes of, you can do 4 or 2, pick your time limit. But what it does, it sets your mindset from the get-go with gratitude. Yeah. A lot of people will get out of bed right away and say, I am statements. I am happy for this day. I am. But what I've found is a lot of people, and partly why I created them, struggle with I am. They're not there yet. They're not there yet. Yeah. And so why I talk about gratitude as that foundation is that, if I am 10 pounds heavier, let's just say, that's hard for some people, right? Whereas if I can get up in the morning and say, oh, I get to go for a walk today, or I get to eat healthy today.
Right.
It leans them into that I am. A lot of people, when they start with I ams, it feels horrible, right? Like you're just like, I'm not there. I love that I get to. It's just kind of that little, almost like that stepping stone to get into the I am mindset.
Yeah, I love that. And of course, I'm a big fan of yours. You know that for all kinds of reasons. But you've also created a journal.
Yes, I do. I have a free gratitude journal. You can it's free too. You hop online. There's a ton out there. Find one that works for you. Yeah. That one is really to help you move your I have to's to I get to's. So I have to go. I'm on the losing weight and gym thing. I have to go to the gym. No, you get to go work out today. Yeah. I have to drive my kids somewhere. No, you get to. And what you'll notice is when you start doing that, you'll fundamentally shift how you feel about something, because it's not something you have to do. It's not lack. It's something you get to do. It's gratitude.
Yeah, I love that. For me, it's a regular practice of mindfulness. I would just get present. Just get present and pay attention to the goodness that's all around you, and stop focusing on what you don't have. Start being grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I think that's great. You want to add one?
Yep. So I use the Calm app, really simple. I also, it is. So whatever I'm struggling with, whether it's anxiety or just whatever it is, I find something that just allows me to decompress and brings me into the present. And I also use a lot of simple journaling prompts. So I think Pinterest is a great tool for that. I've referred a lot of my clients to just type anything into Pinterest.
They have a great Star Wars section.
What?
Journal affirmations.
I've never searched for that. Oddly enough, in Pinterest.
Journal prompts, just something that's really simple that you can build into your day to day.
Love
All right, lightning round. As we wrap up, I want you to look into the camera, and I want you to maybe challenge our listeners with one thing that they can be doing, maybe a 30-day, whatever it is. Challenge them with something that they can do right now to begin to become more grateful.
I'd say, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, stop focusing on what you don't have and start being grateful for what you do. Look at your life all around you. There are gifts that the universe has given you. There are positive things happening. Don't let the negative things in your life steal the show.
Love that. To build off that, a great way to do that is what I just talked about. I have to statements, I shoulds, I must, I could. Get present to when you hear yourself saying, I have to, I must, I could, I should, and just replace one of them in your day to I get to, and watch what happens to you physically and watch what happens to you mentally. Just get present to it and try it for a week. Replace one I have to with an I get to.
Love that.
For me, I would suggest a really simple activity. Take 30 small slips of paper every day. Write down something that resonates with you around what you're grateful for. Put them all in a jar. At the end of the 30 days, either go through them all yourself or gather your kids or your family or somebody that in your circle that can share that with you, and then choose your favorites. A big thing for me is visualization. So visual is memorable. So putting those pieces of paper on sticky notes, on your mirror, in your car, places that are going to bring that to your forefront every time.
These are so good. I get to thank all of you. See what I did there?
That's good.
That was great.
That's very subtle.
I get to thank all of you and we really are grateful for all of you that tune in each and every week, that listen. We appreciate when you share out these episodes, when you comment and you provide your own things that you're doing in order to have that gratitude mindset. I encourage you to do that. So want to thank you again. All of the resources, the everything that we've talked about today, including links to all of the research, to Kate's website, to all of the different things that we've discussed today. All of those will be in the show notes that you can find at livingrichley.me. So we encourage you to check out the website. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to tune in today, and encourage you to continue to live your best life.